I've never been to Sweden. I've never been to Europe. I know I need to travel. So, of course, things should be very different in Sweden versus where I'm from in Canada. Let's check it out today with a video called what is it called? 5 weird things about life in Sweden. Let's check it out.
This first difference is rather simple, but it can lead to a lot of confusion, especially this time of year, because this is the time of year where everyone is telling their employers what days or weeks they want to take off for vacation in the summertime. Well, we can leave aside the fact that people in Sweden get a lot more summer vacation or just vacation days in general compared to people in the US. I've already discussed that on this channel. But in terms of actually reporting the days or weeks that you're going to be off, in Sweden, every week has a number. Whereas in the US, we simply don't number our weeks. And for me, this is very confusing when I ask somebody, when are you going to be off in the summer? And they say, oh, week 34 to week 37. And I'm like,
Oh, okay, fair enough. I mean, we don't do this in Canada, but it kind of makes sense, actually.
what month is that? What days are that? Like, for me, coming from the US, it still causes confusion for me, which is quite funny. You'd think I would get used to it by now. The only time of the year where actually counting the weeks still makes sense in my head is like right after New Year's. I'm like, yeah, it's week 1, it's week 2. I can keep track. But this whole like week 35, week 37, the summer schedules, maybe it's not even 35, 37, maybe it's in the 20s.
Wait, do you guys know exactly like, oh, week 35 equals to this month and like you do all the maths in your head or? Yeah, pretty smart, Sweden. Pretty smart.
That just goes to show how clueless I am about counting weeks. So that to me is very different in Sweden. But if you're from another country that also counts weeks like this, let me know in the comments section because I'm curious if this is just a Swedish thing or if it's just a not American thing. This second one is pretty...
Is it just a Swedish thing? Let me know in the comments.
Pretty funny, but I think that this one also says a lot about the culture on a deeper level. And this is the concept of provanställning, or trial employment, if we would translate it into English. In Sweden, it's a lot more difficult to fire a permanent employee. Businesses have to document a bunch of things and jump through a lot of hoops if they want to fire
It's the same in Canada, to be honest.
someone who is underperforming. Generally, in the US, it's a lot easier to fire someone. Now, keep in mind, this could vary from industry to industry, but as a general rule, it's much easier to fire somebody in the US than it is in Sweden. But in Sweden, you have this 6 months of trial employment. And pretty much during this first 6 months of trying out a new employee, the business can let them go if it's not working out.
So it's more difficult to fire them, but then the 6 months is like, hey, are you good or not? So it gives you a pretty good idea if they're good. So in this first 6 months, it's easy to fire them, right?
Quite interesting because we had a new employee come into our company who is just a superstar. She does such an amazing job at everything. And I remember she'd been working with us for about 5 months. And she goes, you know, I'm kind of nervous. I'm still on my trial employment period and I have to stay on for 1 more month in order to convert it to a more permanent employment. And I thought to myself, you're doing such an amazing job. I don't think there's any reason that you should be worried about that. Then I got to thinking to myself a little bit about my own mindset and what it would mean to work a job in the US. And pretty much in that situation, your entire career is a trial employment period because if you're not doing well, it's much easier to be let go. Whereas in Sweden, you have this sense of security once you're permanently employed, which you see translates.
Well, to be honest, I think it's probably better as a business owner in America, where it's easy to fire them, so you better perform. While in Sweden or Canada, you're kind of like, you know what, I won't get fired, so I don't need to perform, right?
To a very relaxed and secure work environment in Sweden, whereas in the US, people are always pushing and working hard, working extra hours, going above and beyond outside of their work hours. So I think this concept alone and the fact that it's harder to fire someone in Sweden really contributes to this work-life balance that a lot of Swedish employees have versus the hustle mentality, which is really ingrained in American culture. This next one is something.
Okay, fair enough. Maybe it's good, maybe it's bad. I'm not sure. The stats are saying that it's good, right? So maybe the fact that you know you're safe and you can balance things, maybe you perform better at the end of the day. I don't know.
that I've never fully adjusted to, let's be honest. Now, there are elements of this which are very nice. In the wintertime in Sweden, we all know that it gets very cold and very dark. But one thing that Swedes are really good at is making the meal times very cozy, very comfortable. They like to light candles, make it meal.
Sweden is so similar to Canada, right? I'm looking at all of that and it reminds me of Canada.
Mysig is the word in Swedish for making it cozy and a nice vibe. I, for one, really enjoy the mysig vibe. But the one area where I find that it can be a little bit strange is when it comes to eating meals. So imagine this. You're at home with your Swedish partner. One of you has been working hard in the kitchen for a long time to prepare a meal that looks absolutely stunning. You plate it up, you put it on your plate, but then right before you're about to eat, you turn all the lights off and light a single candle. This has happened to me many times, and I look at my plate and I can barely make out the food. I have to like sort of squint to try to figure out what is it that I'm gonna eat. This to me has happened time and
Wait, is it like on special occasions or it's really a daily thing that you guys do? The low light environment when eating. It's the first time I hear that before. We definitely don't do this in Canada, but I mean, I like that. I like the concept of having one candle when you're eating. It creates a nice environment.
time again throughout my time in Sweden. Although this mysig feeling is very cozy and it's amazing to light candles, I feel like I just need a little bit more light to enjoy my
No,
food
I would
properly.
like it.
If there was a light with a dimmer switch, then maybe, not having it at the full dimness, but a little bit brighter. I don't want to eat in a completely bright room, and I think there is something to be said about a cozy ambiance, but I think Swedes are comfortable with having the light level a little bit lower
kinda
than I'm
wanna do
comfortable
it
with
now.
when it comes to eating. This next
want to
difference
try
is
it.
very interesting to me as someone that has just recently become a Swedish citizen. And that is the difference in if you were to say you wanted to give up one of your citizenships. The US is a country that taxes you over the entire world. I mean, there are rules in place that you can deduct some taxes from a country that you're living in against what you would have to pay in the US. But the US is a country that's very unique in that you have to file a tax return even if you haven't lived in the US for years and years and years. Just the fact that you're a US citizen means that you have to file your taxes there. So there's a lot of wealthy individuals that consider giving up their US citizenship, especially if they have another passport. I don't think I could ever give up my US citizenship, but out of curiosity, I looked into what are the implications if someone wanted to give up their US citizenship, or on the other side, if someone was Swedish and wanted to give up their Swedish passport. If an individual decides
I've been living outside of my country for 17 years now. I live in Thailand. If I had like to pay taxes in my country as well as the country I live in, after so long, I think I would just give up my citizenship.
to give up US citizenship, it clearly states that you can never become a US citizen ever again. They sort of have this policy that you're either with us or you're not with us. And if you decide that you're not with us, then that's it. In Sweden, if you decide to give up your Swedish citizenship, it doesn't really seem like they're as harsh if you want to become Swedish again. Not only can you become Swedish again if you want to, but you'll actually be fast-tracked and have a faster process than people that have never been Swedish before. In terms of rules and punishments, the US can seem like it's a little bit more of a harsh culture compared to Sweden. Whereas in Sweden, things are just more relaxed and people are more forgiving. And you see also the difference in Swedish and American prisons, which I also discussed in a previous video on my channel. That said, the cultural differences are quite interesting. The last weird difference that I want to point out in this video is when it comes to advertising, and specifically when it comes to advertising alcohol in Sweden. According to Swedish law, you're not really allowed to advertise alcohol. So what do the beer companies do, or the alcohol companies in Sweden do? They advertise their product, which is 0.0% alcohol. I think it's kind of funny because everybody knows when you see an ad for Norrlands Gold, a 0.0, that it's just a way of their actual beer being top of mind, and it's just their way of going around the rules.
Wait, I'm thinking, do Canada do this? I don't think it's allowed. So in Sweden, it's allowed to... It's just the alcohol that is not allowed. So you can't do anything that is 0% alcohol. Yeah, that's pretty smart from businesses. I guess it's just a way to do marketing.
Abiding by the rules. But it's weird because in the US, or most other countries, I believe for that matter, you can just advertise alcohol. It's not a big deal. But Sweden has a very special relationship with alcohol, and I've discussed this many times with their Systembolaget stores, their state-run liquor stores that control the sales of alcohol. And on the flip side, America is kind of weird how we have our commercials for prescription drugs quite often that you can ask your doctor about, and then you'll watch a commercial and there'll be a big list of warnings and side effects that they have to verbally say on the commercial. I've never really seen a commercial like that in Sweden, but I do think it's a little weird that in Sweden they have these advertisements for 0.0% alcoholic beverages, and in the US it's weird that they advertise prescription drugs. So guys, those were the top 5 weird cultural differences that have been on my mind lately. Let me know in the comments.
All right, interesting. Hey, I know a little bit more about Sweden now. Guys, thank you so much for watching this video. Bye-bye.